Okay, so a few of you have been here before, but most of you are new. So I'd like to welcome you to our sugar bush. And today, as you walk along the trail, you're going to learn all about maple syrup and its history. So you're actually traveling through time, more or less. And right here at this station, we're at the very beginning of maple syrup. So the first people who used the sap from the maple trees to make a sweet treat.
All of them are sweet.
And these are also the first people that lived in Canada. And they were our
Some of the
first
kids said that it still
there
smells
were
like
lots of different tribes, and there's all sorts of different legends about how maple syrup was discovered.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you one from the Anishinaabe tribe, or the people who were local to this area. So the Anishinaabe tribe, they would have a chief, and the chief's job would be to go out and hunt. Now this particular chief, I'm going to tell the legend about, his name was Chief Waxis. Now Chief Waxis was the best hunter in the tribe, and the reason he was so good at hunting was because he had lots of practice. So he would use his tomahawk, this is a replica one I've got here. He would use a tomahawk to go hunting, and before he went every morning, he would do some, you could almost say like target practice at a tree. He would take his tomahawk, throw it at a tree, and see if he could hit the target he was aiming for. And one morning in the month of March, he did a really good job at this, and he hit the tree dead on. And this just happened to be a sugar maple tree. So when he hit the tree, he made a pretty big notch into the tree, and he took his tomahawk out and went out and hunted for the day. And he left that notch in the sugar maple tree behind. And that day he was successful in his hunting, and he caught a rabbit. He caught a rabbit for his family to eat for dinner. Now it was his wife's job to cook up the rabbit for dinner so that they could eat it, and she was going to make a delicious rabbit stew. And to make the stew, she needed to get a bucket of water. Now most days she would have to walk all the way down to the river to collect a bucket of water. But on her way to the river this day, she noticed a source of water that was a lot closer. And that source was a hole where the chief had made a hole with his tomahawk, and it was dripping with water. So she collected that water in her birch bark basket, you see here, and took it back to the camp and cooked up a delicious rabbit stew. Now everyone agreed, including the chief, everyone agreed that this stew was the best stew that they had ever tasted. It was way sweeter than normal. And so everyone asked her, and they said, "Why? How did you make this stew so sweet? What did you do differently?" And she said, "I didn't do anything differently. All I did was I used the water that came from the tree instead of the water from the river." And some of the kids in the front, why do you think that it was actually just water coming from the tree, or what was coming out of the tree?
Maple syrup.
The step before maple syrup starts with an S. Say it louder. Yeah, you got it. She collected the sap from the maple tree. And
There's some in here and a lot of in here. Let's go see it.
To take your buckets back and forth from the trees to my cauldron all day long, filling it up. And in here, what does it look like?
Wow, water.
It looks just like water. Because right now there's not very much sugar in there. We have to boil it for a really long time. Do you guys know what this stuff is that's coming out?
How long do you need to boil it?
This first cauldron's for 8 hours. The stuff coming out of the top is called steam or vapor, and that's all the water leaving the cauldron, which leaves us with more and more sugar. So it spends 8 hours in the first cauldron before we move it over to the next one, and it starts to look a little bit darker. You see that? How's it look now? Pair of underwear. And we'd strain it through there, And that would get rid of all the bugs and the dirt and the leaves that have fallen into our cauldrons throughout the day. You see all that gunk on there? Would you want that on your pancakes? Yeah. No, you wouldn't, and neither would I. That's why we have to strain it like that. Now, the brick of sugar would have a lot of value for me and my family because the only other source of sugar was coming from the southern United States. And back in my day, we didn't have trucks or planes to take it from there, so it would take a long time by horse or by foot, and that made it pretty expensive. So we could trade this for a cool new iPhone, or a pretty new hat, or some nice warm shoes. Or, since it's so delicious, we could also just grind it up into powder, kind of like what you've all got at home, and this wouldn't go bad. We could keep it all year round, we could bake cakes with it, we could make jam with it to preserve other foods that would make that last longer too. Does anybody have any questions? But then I'd be too tempted to actually grab
maple syrup. My sugar maple trees are always here, but we don't always have the right weather. That is the most important thing to remember about making maple syrup. The reason it's only in this part of the world is we have the sugar maple trees, but we also have the right weather. I live in a place called Markham, and this morning I had to scrape my window just a little bit on my car because it was cold last night. It wasn't a big blizzard. There wasn't a lot of snow, but there was just a little bit of ice. And when I walked down the hill, there's a little bit of ice. I had my coat on. I had my hat on because it was cold. But now, I took off my coat, took off my hat. I'm saying, what a beautiful day. Just like maybe you guys are saying. And when it's a day like that, that's what our sugar maple trees are saying. Last weekend I was here. My sugar maple trees were here. But it was too cold. Hell, you look at me. I'm not in great shape. They asked me to help them next door. They put that yoke on. They say, oh, Robin, go get the sap. Well, there's a good chance I'm going to spill it. It's muddy. It's icy. I love being here. I talk to you. The sap comes to me. For the older people, that would be gravity. For my little friends, it's like a slide. The sap slides down to me in the sugar shack because I'm at the bottom of the hill. So it's much easier to get the sap. It's about in the 1960s that plastic became readily available and cheap. That was great for the maple farmer because it is mainly water. It is mainly water. Little bit of sugar, whole lot of water. In my maple syrup, I want a whole lot of sugar. I don't go to No Frills, Loblaws, or Costco and get a bag of sugar and throw it in. I have to get rid of the water. 3 fires and a lot of smoke. Farmer Robin has 1 fire and no smoke. My fire's in here. My smoke goes up the chimney. I still use wood. Might be able to see the reflection here. And I'm getting rid of the water. Getting rid of the water. Sort of our own little Rogers Center roof there. It goes through my big evaporator to my small evaporator. Getting very, very close. Very close. For the adult pure maple syrup, we've gone from that little bit, 3-4%, to 66.5% sugar at 104 degrees Celsius. 104. We don't guess. I've got about 5 thermometers. I like to use this one. I'm at about 100 now. I've got my fire just down a little bit until all the groups have gone, or I get some help in here. Because if I go above 104, I get maple butter, maple sugar candy, maple toffee, and it gums up my machine. So we make it elsewhere. Okay? Priya? Priya? At 104, can we count the 3 for Priya here? 1, 2, 3. It's very close. Smell that, Priya. Almost ready. Thank you. Okay, give Priya a hand.
Moved a little bit.
I'm going to count that as an okay.
Okay.
So I got 1, yes.
Oh, 3 of us against each other. We're in a stick.
Tommy, do you want to try this one over here?
So I'm try not moving any other sticks.
No step.
Try. Okay, then if you can get it nice and fast, spinning, you should be building up your friction. I know it's a big sound, isn't it?
Oh!
And then if you're able to do it,
I wonder if they put it over like a bowl. Tender on the bottom. They're hooked. That's a really short ride. There aren't two. Wagon. They make up too bad.
Where's the operation?